I'm going to go where there's no light here. Okay, today we're going to have a continuation discussion on what? On building a business part-time to full-time and full-time to self-drive, or whatever the title is in this video. I can't remember. But last time we stopped at full-time more or less, and I didn't get a chance to talk about making a business that basically runs itself and you're the pilot, but you can either be there or not be there. We're going to do that today on The Crazy Picker Life with Wheeler, Dealer, and Banana Peeler. Welcome, fellow pickers and would-be adventurers. Dealer here with the Crazy Picker Life topic day. So yeah, I played basketball today again with the boys, and just with having to do extra packing and still, stuff going on that's not normal, outside of normal. Feeling like I'm backpedaling a little, so I didn't get the title of this thing right. I'm going to tighten it up and have some coffee and come back and get down to the meat of it. Before I do, let's look at orders going out today briefly. And we got Benjamin over there on the floor since the chute is all being used here. And I've got Samuel helping me, right, Samuel? How's the help going? Yeah, Mr. Eyebrows. Okay, so decent order flow again today. We got all the models listed. I still have to check over the lots of 10 or 20 or 30 models before we make them live. The shuttle launch pad sold for 80 plus shipping. We got an old broken West Seth Thomas clock sold. Some of the models, some of the smaller ones, that one went for, I believe, 39 plus shipping, which is good. Some of the smaller ones turned out to be good, like I hoped. This one, Beluga, was 49 or 59 plus shipping, I don't recall. Some kind of Western tie, some kind of test strips. The old cool Cyclops lamp that I really like. Finally sold for 45 plus shipping. It's got a clamp on it. Somebody rewired it. Let's see what else we've got. Just a sort of a lens day. Lens. It's a lens hood. Box only. Camera. And then what happens once in a while is we get an order and somebody asks a question after they place the order. And the question tends to go like this. I bought this lens thinking I knew what I was after. Ooh, look at that. Lens flare. I bought this lens. I thought I knew what was going on, but is it this kind of lens for this kind of new camera? And since we sell mostly vintage lenses, most of the vintage lenses don't work on the new cameras. And so a lot of times we have to go back and forth. And it's nice when they do that before we ship the item. It's even nicer if they ask before they buy the item, but if they ask before we ship the item, typically we'll have to cancel. So this one, I'm not going to squish it because I'm going to reuse the paper as my make a list paper. This one has been canceled and refunded. Okay, I am going to get these packed, and then my wife Lon is home working today, and we're going to take a break and go get a coffee at 3 o'clock at the special, Thursday special. I get my coffee half price today. And then I'm going to come back and find a quiet spot and get down to it, mostly concentrating on breaking away from full-time to cruise control. I still haven't looked up the title of this video. It is part 2. It will be described in the title, so hopefully you came here and found it, and it will be on subject, especially after I have my coffee. Okay, so let's talk about going part-time in eBay, doing online selling, buying and selling as a part-time business, then going from part-time to full-time is a step, and some pickers some buyers and sellers. You can pick from rummage sales. You can pick from all the venues where used goods are. Some people do retail arbitrage. Some people actually pick from, distressed merchandise, new merchandise, all different things. So picking can encompass all that. Some people go full-time, and typically when you're full-time, you're running here, there, and everywhere. You're wearing lots of different hats. In the morning, you're packing orders. In the afternoon, you're buying stuff. In the evening, you're catching up on stuff. Always going like a tornado. If you want to make a full-time living, from the low end of that all the way to, there's people that run their own show that do really well. And then the final step, from what I'm thinking, and I've been in the picking game for 10 years almost, 10 years. I've been in the purchasing game for 20 years or more, and I've been around small business for 20 years or more. And I've always had sort of a sales, entrepreneurial spirit. Had some people in my family that were entrepreneurs, just raised with a questioning mindset, and always driven to make my own way. Okay, let's back up a little bit here. I mentioned some spaghetti titles at the beginning of this video as I got my day started. The actual video that was the predecessor to this, I wrote it down here, is titled Breaking Away from Part-Time to Full-Time to Flexible Time. And I did not rewatch that video, but I recall that when I did that video, and I might go back and label it Part 1, just to clarify that this is going to be Part 2. When I did that video, I spent a lot of time on part-time, and I spent a lot of time on full-time from my own experience, and then, who knows where the talk goes. I think there was some good content in there. I think there were some things in there that were valuable if you're either thinking about starting eBay business and doing part-time, or if you're transitioning from part-time to full-time, or if you're part-time and really get it and have things going on a limited scale, but either your job is going to go away, or you're planning to switch to full-time, or in today's economy, I think having, eBay as a backup, either part-time money, or, if something would happen to your job or your spouse's job or some other of your income. Now I am in my nook here, and so I have a feeling we're going to get visitors from time to time, and I'm going to try to keep focused so that I can keep some topics going that are relevant and interesting, and educational really isn't necessarily the word that I'm looking for, but valuable to you as a viewer. And we'll just try to keep it light and going. So when I did the first episode, like I mentioned, I talked about part-time, full-time. I'm not going to go through that again. You might want to go back and either re-watch the original Breaking Away from a few weeks ago, or if you have watched that, it's fresh on your agenda. We're going to talk mostly about my experience in creating a business that will allow you to have flexible time, and even more importantly, where I think I'm heading with my business. I guess, what do I mean by flexible time? Well, flexible time, and I feel in a sense I'm already there. I mean, if I want to do something in the morning, I don't have to ask my boss. I need to check my calendar, maybe check with my wife and kids and see if we have anything going on, but I can just do it. Now I have to pay the price for that generally. Either I have to make up whatever work I didn't do, or bust it before or after, or just put something off, which is sort of flexible. The downside with that is your pay can suffer, your income can suffer. Things tend to come back and bite you if you put too many things off for too long. So true flexible time, and what I'm aiming to do is to be able to create a business system around buying locally and buying merchandise regionally and selling it mainly on the internet. Currently we use eBay and a little bit of Amazon. I think we'll end up branching out into our own online website, mainly probably for cameras to start with. And then, some other outlets that could happen would be some sort of a retail output post. But there's a lot of advantages to being online. There are some disadvantages. If you can put up with the disadvantages, I think the advantages outweigh everything else that's available. Online really is where it's at if you can stomach some of the problems that come with it. And if you can communicate your message enough with your purchaser, that's a big problem with online. Is a lot of times you're dealing with typed messages, and so when you add to that global situations, all that can become very challenging. A lot of people have trouble with it, including we do. I mean, there's just no way around it. There's going to be challenges. Okay, so flexible time would allow me and my wife Lon, if we wanted to leave the business for a couple days, maybe a couple weeks, maybe 6 months, and have very limited contact with it, but it would continue. And it would continue basically with me as part of the ownership, and thus creating some sort of income without me having to bust it day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. And if I wanted to come in and work, I could come in and substitute in for somebody. I could come in and do some listing, do some purchasing, do some consulting, all those things. If I wanted to come and work a year straight, if I got sick of vacations or whatever, I could do that. Now, I'm not to that point yet. However, I feel I'm very close to being able to go for a week and have the business running. Right now, I can go for a couple days and have no hiccups. And that was not how it was when I was just full-time, basically me running things, or if I had just me and Wheeler running things. We both sort of did the same thing, listing and buying, but I did all the behind the scenes packing and ordering supplies and taking care of red alert messages and all the things that go into behind the scenes running the business. And so when critical things came up, like getting orders out daily, I was the one. Now I'm developing systems and people, they happen to be our family members, that are doing the packaging, doing the listing. Soon they'll be ordering supplies. They're doing the sorting of inventory. They're doing the shelving of inventory. They're doing the recall of inventory. They're handling most of the questions. They're handling where do supplies go. They're handling all kinds of things. They are not handling returns yet. They are not handling hot questions yet. They're not handling removing negative feedback. They're not handling, bill paying and cash flow and things like that yet. But soon, they're developing into young business people. Now, there's 2 paths I think you can go with this, okay? I mean, there's 2 main paths, and there could be more. I got a little coffee left here. Frappuccino special today, $3. Pretty good, caramel frap. We got a local place that's really good that we go to most of the time, and then my wife monitors the specials, and we have special time quite often, as you can't see by the belly. Okay, so 2 ways you can go with this. I'm going to try to keep this video to a half hour-ish. I've got a few UPS packages to get out today yet, and probably some other things to do. So 2 main directions. There may be others. I haven't thought it through. When you go from full-time to actually building a business with some systems and some backup people and some people doing most of the main tasks, and even somebody else besides yourself that does many or all of the critical tasks, the business that I'm building, part 1 or type 1, would be a family-run business. So it would be my first choice to have a family-run business where maybe it's yourself, your spouse, your kids, maybe, grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, something with family. I mean, the closer knit you can keep it, the better. But I think there is value running the business with family. Decisions can be made a little bit differently. You can talk things through a little bit differently. You don't have to be so PR related, public relations related. You don't have to go through hiring and firing situations. You don't have to go through quite the legal construct that you have to go if you're going to hire regular employees or regular subcontractors, that type of thing. And so there are plenty of things that you need to research on structuring family members as employees or subcontractors, or however you're going to do that. There's age considerations, there's tax advantages, there's tax situations, there's things with unemployment, there's limits and minimums and all kinds of stuff. You spend a few hours with it, you can start to develop a framework. So that is not what this talk is about, nor will I talk about that in any more detail. You're going to have to pay the price. But the point is, your kids can help you from a young age do things that are associated with the business. And if they're interested, which I think it's a great learning step for pretty much every subject possible that they could ever be taught in school, entrepreneurship will teach you to communicate. It'll teach you math skills. It'll teach you basic real world skills. It'll teach you how to work with your hands, like packing things and moving stuff around, treating things with care. I mean, I could go on and on and on the valuable skills that your children will learn working with you. It'll teach them to have some pocket money. It'll teach them what things really cost. Just on and on and on. So anyway, the first way to do this is with family. And that's the business that I'm creating, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But as our business grows within our family, we have a large family. I'm also going to create it so it could be like the second business if needed, because I would like this thing to continue whether my kids are interested or not. I feel like I'm getting old, but I'm young enough where I'm not done bringing in the money. And I'm also old enough and hopefully wise enough where I don't want to keep working at the crazy pace that you have to work at if you're just working in this by yourself. I don't want to work at that pace until I drop. And some of you know what I'm talking about. I worked, whatever I did, I worked at a fast pace, and I still do compared to probably most people. But, and I enjoy a lot of it. I mean, what would you do? You get bored. But again, I want to choose the days I want to work hard, I work hard. The days I want to go do whatever, I want to do whatever. So if my children decide not to be in this business, I want to have the skeleton and the systems and the plan in place where I could put other people in there. And so the second way that you can do this business, and I think there's both opportunity there and I think there's challenges there, and it has to be done in the right way. And I don't have experience in this business doing it, but you could hire outside people to work in your business, and you could do the same thing I'm talking about here. You could have listers, you could have people who take photographs for you only, you could have people who do your packing for you. You can outsource some of those things if you're in a big enough area, population area. There's probably places that will do your packaging for you. There's probably fulfillment, there's probably places that will house your stuff, like your finished listed inventory, and pack it for you. I mean, there are quite a few different options. You can hire companies, there's fulfillment companies. You probably can hire some place to list stuff. I did some classified advertising for test strips, and I had that in probably 20, 30 newspapers at one time, and with a phone number, and those phone numbers rang into a call center somewhere in Nebraska, I think, and they had a script that I developed, and they went through the checklist, and then people would send me their test strips, and I ended up processing them. They actually would have went farther. They would have taken the deliveries and done the processing for me if I wanted to go that far. It never developed to that point. I pulled the plug on it before it got too crazy. There was just too much competition, and the margins shrank, and the advertising was really expensive. Even classified ads, it got really expensive. And the call center wasn't cheap either. Did that for a couple of years. But my point is, there are ways to outsource things if you don't have, or your family's not interested in getting involved. And sometimes what you have to do is you have to do things yourself, and then when you start making money or things change in your family, people will come and work for you. Sometimes that happens too. Now, I do have some experience with another family business. I worked for my mother. My sister worked there for a while. My dad worked there for a while. We had up to 15 employees. And so I saw a lot of the hiring process and the unemployment and, the difference in employees, how some of them are like by the book and you could probably trust them with anything. And then there's other ones that they just assume that they have a little more free reign than you're comfortable with. They don't necessarily have bad intentions, but you kind of got to keep an eye on them. And then there's some that just don't integrate well or have ill intent or who knows what the heck, their own agendas. Having employees is not easy, but it is possible. I think you would also have to have a better system with complete written instructions. Here's how we do things. Don't deviate. And then you have to have some feedback, some follow-up loops, some supervision, on and on and on. This whole eBay business is not a tough business, but some of the things that Wheeler and I ironed out early when we had 2 or more people listing is standardization, so that you both know where everything is. If you don't have your listing standardized like a template, if you don't have your inventory standardized, if you don't have the way that you bag and box stuff standardized, you're going to run into a lot of challenges down the road, because it's almost like two bulls knocking horns sometimes. It's just not a good thing. So if you're going to hire employees, you got to have all those ducks in a row. So I'm going to leave that aside for right now and probably not talk about it anymore, because I don't have employees that are outside my family, And so, you got to figure out some of the hiring, some of the things that you can ask, how to weed out people you don't want to hire. It is a kind of a tough hiring environment if you're just going to go totally public with that and bring in people to interview. So I would try to keep that a little tighter if possible. And again, I'm not an expert. Sometimes you can hire right out of the pool that you people you associate and things like that. I think that's almost as good as family. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about structure of this kind of business, and then let me talk a little bit about where I think I'm going with this. So right now we work in a home situation. We've structured it so our home is large enough to handle most of the activities that our home generates, as well as most of the activities that our business generates, and it's relatively good size. If you don't have that, you're going to have that as a concern. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that right now. You're going to have to figure that out. Storage for supplies. You can work and live around your stuff for a while, but it does challenge certain things. If your computer and office is too close, obviously, to where you sleep, where you try to relax, when you multiply that with more family members, and this is why I bring this up, it can be more challenging. So if you're going to start having your kids do stuff, and they are good at like working under a certain schedule or working when you're working, I think that would work the best. Now, early on, I've been trained as sort of a night owl, and then I got challenges in the morning too. So a lot of times I have to play both sides of that. Wheeler, without my influence, I think is a night owl. He actually, and he's getting it, I think he's getting it, because he wants to sort of be around everybody else. He actually works like on a 28-hour clock where he'll work late and then he'll stay up later. And then the next day he'll work a little later and stay up even later. And his clock just keeps going around and around and around until he sort of burns out. And look, I got nothing to do with that. I've tried to sort of massage it down and clamp him down. He just doesn't, he doesn't operate well under that structure. And you can't force stuff on people, and so you learn that. If you have more people working in your business, there's likelihood that they're going to be working around the clock. Now, we probably get like 3 hours a day that's like nobody's working in this house. so those are the hours that my eyes are the most closed, The whole house is quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Anybody that, would break into our house, that would be the wrong time because it's so quiet. We all would hear you. You got to break in and kind of blend with everything that's going on while we're awake. That's your best chance, right? So you have to develop some sound and activity barriers, and I think that'll work out for you. Now, there's different parts of the business. How do you get people to do the things that need to be done? How do you get people to do the things they want to do? How do you train people? All those different things. That takes time to figure out. That takes time to get your head around. For me, I like to be in control of the whole business. I like to think I do everything the best anybody could. And so if it's out of my hands, it's obviously being done by somebody not as good as me. And so I got to watch them, I've got all those characteristics. Maybe you do too. I think that comes from a certain type of person, but I also think it comes from if you started this part-time and busted it enough and figured it out to work full-time, and now you've been in the full-time game and you're going crazy because you got more to do than you know how to do, and so in your free time you're trying to figure out how to go away from that and become flex time, or at least grow and outsource some of your stuff, at that point, I lost my thought a little bit, but at that point, you're looking to reel it in a little bit. You don't want things to go crazier, right? So you need to have systems in place. You need to have people take some of the heat off some of your activities. How do you do that? So you start. I know where I was. So you start to become more open to the idea that, and I had to learn this, more open to the idea that if I outsource some stuff, it may not be done as well as if I'm doing it myself. I'm the last in line. I'm the guy who loses the dollars when a shipment comes back broken from bad packing. I'm the one who has to answer the negative feedback questions if something wasn't listed accurately and the person gets it and they throw it out their door because they hated it. It was the worst ever. Whatever. So I'm the last in line, plus I got that ego thing, right? When you start to want to grow your business and maybe, take a break once in a while, for me, it just happened naturally. I started to open up to the idea, how am I going to put up with all this? So you learn to train people. You learn to help people understand the end mission, the end vision, who your end customer is, the end goal, the end achievement. For example, if I have a collectible and I don't like that collectible, I don't have to sit here and look at this thing. I don't have to sit here and look at this thing and go, oh, I love this collectible. But you don't have to sit there and go, oh, I hate this collectible. I'm not even going to list it. So when I list this thing, whether I love it or hate it, I list it with the end user in mind. The end user wants this thing. It's their thing. They want to buy it for themselves, a gift, whatever. They see it. They need an accurate representation of it so that they can make the right choice. Then we need to pack it so when they get it, they open it up and they go, aha, that is what I'm looking for. I paid a fair price. I got it in a fair time. It is what I'm looking for. Hallelujah. We're going to keep it. That's getting my whole team to see that. That's what we do in this business. We pre-see that person. So we buy what they want. We already know that they're out there, and we make it plain and visible to them online. They see it, they buy it, we pack it, they love it, they keep it, they give us good feedback, they come back. So when you can get that vision across to people over time, then when you lay down these systems, this is how we do it. This is where we put stuff. This is how we clean up. This is how we start. This is how many items we have to list a day. This is how many packages we have to list a day and by a certain time. This is the box size we use. This is the amount of bubble wrap we use. All those things, when you aim them down the line at satisfying your customer, the vision starts to develop. And then when they get paid, they're like, hey, this is how we get paid. We help the customer get what they want. You get that whole vision in there. That helps. And it seems to be easier with people you get along with because you can joke with them a little bit. You know where they're coming from. You spent time with them. I don't know how to do that with just employees, but okay. What else do we got? Getting people to help you with pictures, that's a pretty good starting point for a lot of people. Taking them picking with you, that can be valuable and helpful if you're picking things that are heavy or bulky or lots of stuff. We have our children early on pull the wagon or the cart. We have them help us load stuff. That's a good way. Get them looking around at stuff. If they want something to buy, send them in with some money, have them negotiate. They start to see how that all works.
Then when we get home, we have everybody help unload. That's a good starting point for new people. Packing is a little more advanced. It actually is fairly critical. So once you learn how to pack, you can start teaching a backup. You can have them work with you. Actual listing things is fairly involved and critical. You can have them do it with you. You can put the listings on scheduled so you can look them over before they're live. You can have them list certain things that are a little less mechanical, a little less inclined to bust or break, a little lower end, and as they get more experience, they can go on to anything they want. Pretty soon, your helpers and your children, your family, they'll be listing circles around you. Then from there, you have to work on motivation and having maybe a monthly contest and having a group whoop where everybody gets together once a week and you talk about what happened and you talk about what's going to happen and you talk about where you're headed and you talk about the systems that are coming online and you're talking about the doorbell ringing. We got somebody answering that? Let mom know. I think she's got somebody picking up something. I got it. So my role as business development person is to put all these pieces in place and then get them coordinated and then help them learn their job well enough to do it 100% by themselves. Then they can maybe cross-train. Then, depending on what they want to do and their skills and their gifts and their interests, you can take them up the ladder a little bit and maybe give them some things that are more on the situational list. Like when a negative feedback comes in, do you pursue it to try to take it off, or do you just let it and take your punch and move on? Or if a question comes in that you can't handle, or if like I've got this claim with UPS right now for this Olympia sign, how hard do you pursue that? Da 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 da. You can take them up so that they can start trying some of those things. Now, a lot of those things are really situational, and they don't happen that often. Some of them are real timely. Some of them you can handle away from the office or as you get to it. So a lot of those day-to-day things, you need to have people in place and systems in place. A lot of the situational things can still sort of be situational. And if you want to have flexible time and you're still dealing with those, it's not the worst thing. Okay, so where does this business go for me? Where do I see it going? Right now we have the business in the house. I can already see that there's going to come a time where I'm going to want my life back. I'm going to want a place to go where there's not homeschooling going on and there's not business going on. I want a place where it's my house and you come into it once in a while and we visit and then bring the grandkids and all that kind of stuff. I envision that future. We're not there yet. I'm not worried about it yet. But when that happens, I can see that we're going to get a commercial location. I think Kate is making supper. So if we're hearing background noise, we're going to ignore it. What's for supper, Kate?
Shepherd's pie.
Shepherd's pie. So I can envision that time, and I think we're going to go back to either buying or renting a commercial location, and then people can come to a central location. You can stop in, do what you want, leave, stop in, hang out, whatever. And I can do the same. And then I think from there, I've got 6 children. I don't know what Lon will do, if she ever will get involved with the business more than she is. She does a bunch of bookkeeping and things like that for me. From there, I want to develop this thing here and there where it's running with or without me. All the main systems are covered and double covered. And if we need to grow more, we'll hire outside people. if we have some of the children move on, either temporarily to do something else, or part-time to do something else, or full-time to do something else, they may come back, whatever, we'll develop it so that we can hire somebody else in, or we can expand and contract a little bit. I mean, if everybody leaves, then it's going to be back to just me, but we'll see if that happens. If it does, it does. You know, there's got to be plans for that too. But I would like it to be something that as long as people are buying and selling on the internet, we're going to be in the game and we'll have a business running. And maybe one of my children will take my position sort of as the overseer and run the whole thing. That would be fine. And there'll have to be some sort of agreement. I will move aside more or less and be a consultant. I might even just be somebody who plugs in then when I want to bring some really cool stuff in or list some really cool stuff or whatever. I don't think we're done developing the scale of this thing. We're basically a $250,000 plus a year business in sales. I think this year will be better. I think every year for a while will be better. I don't think it's going to be that economy driven. Whether the economy is good or bad, I don't think that's going to matter too much. Certainly there are some things that could influence it temporarily or even longer. And we're going to try to put some things in place. Like I mentioned, have our own website and explore some other opportunities should eBay not become as viable for us. I think we're $1 million a year business once we get it scaled, once we get everybody involved, once we get all the systems in place, once we get our buying down where we're buying bigger items and things like that, and once everybody is sort of, has a little entrepreneurial age behind them. And it's not really about, making a big business, but there are certain economies of scale, and we got to feed everybody. Everybody's growing. They're going to have their own households. I foresee when all my children will have their own households. I think by then I'll be breaking away to flexible time 100%. So I see 10 years, 10-year plan. Well, that's a lot of talking. Seemed like a lot of talking. So I guess as a wrap up, what do you have to do if you're full-time in this business and you're working, night and day, maybe some weekends, a lot, feels like 24/7, 365. Maybe you're struggling financially with that. Maybe you want to grow. Maybe you're wondering how to grow. Maybe you're maxed out. Maybe you feel like you're maxed out. Maybe most days you're maxed out. How do you start, getting to that flexible time? You just need to start. That's point one. If you've got somebody that can take some of the work from you, just 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You just got to start. Have them start doing something for you. That's it. How do you figure out all the legal stuff? How do you figure out all the payment stuff? How do you figure out all the contests and the momentum and all the rewards and stuff like that? Well, you do it just like anything, a little at a time. Little at a time. Don't eat the whole elephant at once, but get in there and start chewing on a leg. Chew on that elephant leg for a while and then start spitting it out and going after the rest of the elephant. But the point is, you got to start. And then the other thing is, work on yourself. You got to be healthy. You got to have the right mindset. You got to get enough sleep. You got to get some exercise. You got to have the right focus. You got to have a positive attitude. You got to work on all those leadership things. If your game is strong, then you can weather the steps and the storm and all the things that come when you grow and you start handing off some of your work and you start learning on how that goes. You're not going to see what I see for my next 10 years. You're not going to see that for yourself until you start putting your feet into the water and get up to about neck deep. When you're neck deep in the water, that's when you start seeing the boat that just came around the corner. But until then, you didn't go out far enough. You just didn't go out far enough. You can stand on the shore and ask the guy over there, hey, do you see the boat? And they're like, I don't see the boat. I don't know what the heck dealer's talking about. And you're saying, I want to see the boat. So you wade out a little bit, right? And you're like, I'm up to my knees. You over here again. Do you see the boat the dealer's talking about? And the guy over there didn't even go in the water. I don't see the boat. I think dealer's crazy. And you're like, I don't think he's crazy. I don't see the boat, but I bet there's one out there. You wade out a little bit farther and you're starting to get nervous because you don't swim and you're about out up to here and you turn back and you go, do you see the boat? And the guy that was over there, whoever they were, they left. And you're like, oh no, I'm out here all alone. What the heck? And then you peer out and there's the boat the dealer was talking about, and all of a sudden the light bulb goes on. You raise your hands up, hey, I'm over here. And they see you because you're out far enough, right? So 1, just start doing it. And 2, take care of yourself. Get yourself in the right mindset. Don't listen to the people that are on shore saying that, there ain't no boat. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll be back at this another time soon. Pick well, list often. Dealer out.
It's following us.
What? Are you following us around?
Yeah.
Why are these things following us?
I don't know.